Good afternoon and welcome back to the Burnside Bowling Club in Christchurch as we prepare to bring you coverage of the men's final of the National Interclub Sevens between Stoke of the Nelson Centre and Elmwood Park of Canterbury. The hometown side here playing at Burnside, and we'll be bringing you coverage of the singles matchup between Shannon McElroy of Stoke, of course, and Kelvin Scott of Elmwood Park. Both coming off wins in their semi-finals. Shannon McElroy won 21-9 rather in his semi-final against Browns Bay, and Kelvin Scott against Seamus Curtin 21-20. That one finished up an absolute classic as Elmwood Park ended up winning 3-0 all three of their matches against the Stokes Valley side. Stoke overcoming Browns Bay 2-1 to get to this stage. Appears alongside Pete Hodgson and Graham Grocott for Stoke up against Gary Lawson and Nathan Glasson, who are, like McElroy, a perfect 7 from 7 at this competition. And then in the fours, it's Robbie Reid skipping the Stoke 4 with Jimmy Pugh, Don Ambrose and Chris Albrecht up against the Lance Pascoe skipped quartet of Elmwood Park, featuring Paul McKinnell, Liam Ethorne and Steve Ditford. I'm Brenton Vanissel. I'll bring you coverage of this one. Alongside me, as always, is Kevin Hicklin. We've quickly had time to digest a sandwich and a few sweets, and we're back into it. And we hope, Kevin, that this is anything as good as the drama we saw unfold in the women's semi-final just moments ago.
Certainly a fantastic semi-final we saw between Carlton Cornwall of Auckland and Nelson, and it came down, of course, to an extra end, which was a replay twice, and we saw the Val Smith skip side narrowly running out the winners to get them through to the final after Carlton Cornwall had won the pairs, and Joe Edwards defeated Linda Ralph in a titanic struggle 21-18 after Edwards came from 18-14 behind to run out the winners. And if we have a look at the 14 players here, Brendan, we've got some of the best going around. It's interesting if we look at the interesting to see now an ex-Auckland player who moved to Nelson, Graham Grocott, winner of many Auckland titles and winner of the New Zealand Trust Open singles. He's into the Stoke club and playing with Peter Hodgson in the pairs. Chris Aldred, very, very well performed Nelson player leading with Don Ambrose, Jimmy Pugh and Robbie Reid. And then you look at the Elmwood Park side of Steve Ditford, Liam Ethorne, former Southland player Paul McKinnell and Lance Pascoe, who has had an outstanding season this year, winning the Somerset National Pairs, of course, with Jamie Hill. And then Nathan Glasson and Gary Lawson, very, very well. We know all about Lawson, and Glasson, of course, also a magnificent player. And in the singles, you've got two of the best going around, Shannon McElroy, of course, and Kelvin Scott, who is certainly a very, very tenacious and capable singles player. And as we see this very first end, as we see McElroy get the jack, move it right out to the extreme side of it. You see it there just inside the peg.
It's still in play, and it's going to be a tricky part of the green to get to for Kelvin Scott.
And that mightn't have gone in Shannon McElroy's favour, that run shot that he played to the jack. Got that wrong side of it. Kelvin Scott.
Yeah, not where he wanted to send the jack, that's for sure, McElroy. Kelvin Scott, of course, winner of the singles as well, the national champs. So, very proficient player at this discipline. We've played a lot here at Burnside, being a Christchurch local. He's done pretty well here, Kelvin Scott.
This could be 3.
Well, it certainly looks like 2, doesn't it? At least. You're right, it could be 3. That's a great bowler, that is.
I'll see them.
Kelvin Scott. 2 go up.
2 it is.
So, good start for Kelvin Scott. 2 on the very first end of this singles matchup here in the men's final of the National Interclub Sevens. Calvin Scott taking the lead for Elmwood Park 2-0 over Shannon McElroy, who, as I mentioned, has been perfect here in Christchurch at this tournament. He may be taking a break from international play, but he is still world class. There's no doubt about that. 8 from 8 he is at this tournament. Calvin Scott's been pretty handy. 5 from 7 himself, including that big win over Seamus Curtin. And I say big, just big in the fact that he knocked over current national squad member, but 21-20 was the final scoreline.
And in the women's final, we'll see the Takapuna side up against Nelson, and Takapuna, who defeated the very strong and well-performed Nainai side in their semi-final. And we saw, as we said, Nelson defeat Carlton Cornwall in their semi-final on an extra end in the fours. That all came down to. And really, as Brent and I have both said right throughout this commentary, the importance of the singles to get you away to a good start. And in that women's final, the clash between Joe Edwards and Selena Smith, who have certainly been two of the form singles players in this Interclub final, that will be a big clash and assist to set up the win for either one of these sides.
Wow. In some ways, it's a bit of an audition for Selena Smith.
It is.
You know, how much do you want that singles berth for New Zealand, or a chance to prove to the selectors that you may be the heir apparent? Of course, Joe Edwards, that has been her spot for so long in the Blackjacks, but having now retired, there is an opening there. A lot of thought that move Caitlin Inch from the triples and fours and move into the singles and pairs, but you know, Selena Smith can certainly give them something to think about if she manages to topple Joe Edwards.
There's a great bowl from Shannon McElroy, drawing round in front of the Calvin Scott bowl, which is just low of the jack. The interesting thing is, if the selectors were to decide to do that, Brenda, it just, because the woman, no doubt at this point, are still desperately, one would think, short, one person short of a back-end player.
Yeah, that's the issue, isn't it?
And that's the real issue for the selectors on how they form their teams. And here's Calvin Scott trying to reach this counting bowl of McElroy's, just going to go by through the port, just fell short of that target. I think it's fair to say, with the performance that we've witnessed this year with Selena Smith, Brendan, when you would think from a New Zealand point of view, so we watch McElroy again, look at this, doesn't want to touch the jack though, and he does. I don't think he'll make a lot of difference, still left holding, I would say, shakes his head, wasn't happy that he got that touch on the jack. So Calvin Scott now got the top of the head, having a good look. You might see Calvin Scott predominantly a draw shot, weighted draw shot and weighted play. You won't see much the big drive from. I just wonder whether he can now play with that ditch weight through that very, very narrow port, get onto the McElroy bowl and jar the bowls out of the head. Calvin's Scott back to the mat now, and if you see him change his hand, that to me is the shot he's going to play. So here is Scott on his forehand. Looks as though he's going to endeavour to try and reach through there, and he's playing with that. You can see that reaching weight to try and looks as though it's going to be on the wide side. It's not going to come back far enough. Certainly he's really off target for where he was trying to play to. Shannon McElroy having a look at the head. But going back to the Selena Smith thing though, Brendan, what we've seen this year certainly put her hand up pretty high as far as a recall back into the New Zealand side, because she's been,
been in and out in recent times, hasn't she? Wasn't named for the World Championship squad.
No, she wasn't.
So you think with that opening there with Joe Edwards' retirement, Selena Smith would be absolute top of the list. Claire Hendra would be another one, though, who would be in the conversation, given how well she's played as well this summer.
Claire Hendra can assist that back end positioning for the Blackjack squad. Selena Smith's had 2 New Zealand runners up this year in both the pairs and the fours, so in the last 8 in the mixed pairs. So McElroy trying to play to the Kelvin Scott bowl, trying to turn that through the head. We'll see in a moment. These boys won't muck around, looking around at the head, pretty quickly make their decisions. I see Kelvin.
Yeah, I think it's Kelvin Scott who's got this. Although they might actually have a measure. Maybe they... No, well, there we go. They weren't quite able to tell. It's obviously a bit closer than it looks on our monitor. It's the Kelvin Scott bowl first. And now I'll go the 2 McElroy bowls.
And it was the 1-2 Kelvin Scott.
So good start from Kelvin Scott, just like he made against Seamus Curtin. We're getting the updates of that match he had against Seamus Curtin, and he got up to a great start. He led 8-4 and then 15-7 in that semi-final in the singles against Seamus Curtin for eventually prevailing 21-20. And now an early 3-0 lead here. Kelvin Scott over Shannon McElroy.
So this big final of 2 of the form sides, no doubt about that. And as we see, Kelvin Scott draw right in behind the jack, a back toucher. And you'll see the jack sitting right on the 2 metre mark. And the recently sabbatical, I'll call it, McElroy from the Blackjack squad. Certainly a big loss, but we'll just wait to see what happens, how long he's out of the international arena. But Kelvin Scott, who he's up against here, certainly a very, very formidable opponent, very well performed player over a number of years. And of course was part of the Mike Kernahan side that went down in the last 2 or 3 years. Kernahan has lost the final, but I think Kelvin Scott's been in that side 2 of the 3 years, I think.
Might have only been this year. I'm trying to remember if it was certainly wasn't the first year of that.
No, it was
and Andrew
not.
Kelly and Andy McLean were part of that team, weren't they, in the first year at Night? Trying to think back to Mount Maunganui. But yeah, very strong player, obviously part of the Elmwood Park Saints and bowls 3-5. They've made the last 2 finals. Haven't quite been able to get over the line.
So again, holding the shot early on in this match, leading 3-0 over Shannon McElroy in this race to 21. As we watch this bowl of Scott's breaking in towards the head, and Shannon McElroy, I'm sure, now will asking the marker. 2 down was the count. 2 bowls low is the Kelvin Scott bowl, was the call from the marker. I thought McElroy may well be, I thought, looking at the other hand to try and get down to the shot bowl and sit on top of it. Just asking whether the shot bolt is jack high, and it is just slightly jack high was the indication from the marker. So as you thought, best shot percentage here for Shannon McElroy is on that backhand side, trying to reach down to the shot bowl and get some movement on the jack. Looks as though it's just going to dip under the line And it will. 2 down at this stage is Shannon McElroy, the Stoke club in Nelson.
Yeah, 2 clubs from the Nelson Centre through the final. It's quite some achievement. But when you look at the calibre of the players they do have in both of these clubs, probably come as no surprise. Stoke obviously led superbly with Shannon McElroy as their singles player. When you've got a guaranteed win almost in the singles, it makes it a bit easier to get to this stage. 8 from 8. And then very strong players, and Peter Hodson, Robbie Reid, Jimmy Pugh, all part of the Stoke Thunder, of course, and bowls 3-5. And then the Nelson women, who we were live streaming their game this morning and into early this afternoon. Their titanic win over Carlton Cornwall, led by Joe Edwards and Val Smith.
And just talking to Ashley Jeffcoat at the break, just her disappointment was that she knew she played well, but she also said, I knew I played 3 big bowls, that I was only more than likely a centimetre away from getting literally the winning result on. So played very, very well, did Ashley Jeffcoat, in a real tense semi-final. And one would think, Brendan, with the quality of these 2 men's teams out here, that we're in for, I would say, it'd be a tough tussle. Pick a winner out of these 2. No, it's
pretty tough, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's pretty tough. Well, when you've got Lawson and Glasson, who have gone unbeaten through the pairs, Shannon McElroy has gone unbeaten through the singles, really, it's going to come down to the 4s. Is the way you'd look at it. Obviously, you know, Kelvin Scott is certainly capable of beating McElroy, as McElroy's drive there goes awry. So it should be 2 more to Kelvin Scott. 5-0 he will now lead in this first 221. So an early hole McElroy finds himself in. Don't know if this has happened too often here in Christchurch at these National Interclub 7s. Yeah, so the 4s I think will be very decisive, and there's not much here. Can split those 2 4s, either maybe the slight edge to Elmwood Park, with Lance Pascoe having had such a great summer as their skip over Robbie Reid, but there's not much in it.
Oh, he's had a stellar season, hasn't he, Lance Pascoe, winning the pairs, of course, and runner-up in the Somerset National 4s as well. But his all-round play and his all-round play and game management has been outstanding, and he's one player that certainly put his hand up to the selectors and to say, give me a go, and he certainly must be, one would think, in their reckoning. More will be revealed, of course, when the North Island and South Island squads are announced for the... We know it's not until September. Here's Kelvin Scott, draws right on top, front toucher, and straight away, Brendan, as we know and seen, this is where in singles it's just paramount, that first bowl and the difference that it can make to the overall head. When you... There I can see
Jimmy Pugh chasing one down.
Pugh's on the chase.
Always one of the colourful characters. We love him in Bowl 3-5 on Sky Sport. And no doubt will be part of the Stoke Thunder again this year. See an early update from the other boards. So Stoke up in the 4s 2-0, and it's a tight start in the pairs, 1 apiece between Stoke and Elmwood Park, and obviously here in the singles, Kelvin Scott out to this early 5-0 advantage in the first 221 contest.
And really, 5-0 down Shannon McElroy, we all know that, you know, to him it's just a couple of ends, just got to work at it, as McElroy will. Remember, this is the rink, or not, it's the green, I should say, where Shannon McElroy won the World Singles in 2016. He defeated Ryan Bester to win the World Singles, and then go on later on that year to win the following year to win the World Champion of Champions Singles held in Australia and was certainly over that period the world form singles player. So we all know what Shannon McElroy is capable.
Still the world singles champion,
he
of
certainly
course.
Is. He's been the world champion now for 5 years.
And counting.
Well, yeah, he'll be the world champion singles player till 2023.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, obviously, but World Bowl's been one of those events which has been affected largely. It's supposed to be held May, June last year. That obviously never happened. And it's not going to happen this year either.
But we will have some international bowls that we will be bringing you. The Trans-Tasman to be held in Australia. It's November, I think.
And the Trans-Tasman will be returning to New Zealand shores for the first time in a while after a steady diet of Trans-Tasmans over in Australia.
We'll be back, I think it's
February, is it?
February, that's down for the Trans-Tasman to be played in NZ. And then it's all go in a very short preparation, really, Brendan, to England for the Commonwealth Games. So there's very shortly, once we get to the North-South fixture, it's all on really for the leading players.
Yeah, if you want to be there at the Commonwealth Games next year in Birmingham, really, you've got to be involved in that North-South fixture, you would have thought. Really performing from that moment onwards.
Well, remembering, of course, now in the North-South fixture, we will have the Australian-based players back here as well, with the travel bubble about to open. So that means Ali Forsyth, Crystal Leave, Caitlin Inch will all be back playing in the North-South match, which is great for the event, but also what the New Zealand selectors also want. There's Shannon McElroy down on the head, having a good look.
He's made a number of visits to the head already, isn't it? It's just showing how, and it's really a tribute to how well Kelvin Scott's played, because end after end he's been, how am I going to get myself out of this trouble here? Because Kelvin Scott has been dictating.
That first bowl scenario, Brendan, that was spoken so much about, of making that first bowl so effective. And Kelvin Scott, being the wily competitor that he is, and being a great exponent of singles, he knows how important that also is to get you off to a good start. Remember, ends don't count. 3-0 there, you can see in the fours. Stoke leading, the Robbie Reid skip side, the Trafalgar Park groundsman. 2 ends gone, and they're leading 3-0 over the Lance Pascoe skip Elmwood Park side. So here's McElroy now, down on the head, trying to play up to the Scott shot bowl. He had a good look at it on the way. He's going to get the jack. He is.
He's just moved it right towards another.
And still one down.
Kelvin Scott bowl. So a good effort from Shannon McElroy, but hasn't got on the result. So it'll be 6-0. Kelvin Scott now leading Shannon McElroy in the singles. Very good start for Elmwood Park here, and a discipline that they may have thought they'd be up against it when they're coming up against the reigning world champion and world-class Shannon McElroy. As I mentioned, while he may be taking an international hiatus, a sabbatical if you like, he is still one of the world's very, very best at this discipline, there's no doubt. But Kelvin Scott showing what he's capable of. As I mentioned, he's won a national title in singles before.
The only time you know you've actually beaten Shannon McElroy in singles when you get to 21 or 25 before him, because he's never going to relent. He just he's one of those players, doesn't chase the scoreboard. He just backs himself to get into the game.
It takes it end after end, and then I suppose just like we saw with Joe Edwards, you don't want Shannon McElroy breathing down your neck in the late stage. It's always the hardest to close out a match against players like the calibre of Joe Edwards and Shannon McElroy. So Kelvin Scott, from his perspective, will just want to keep continuing what he's doing and really put the pressure on his opposite and force McElroy to try and start searching for shots.
Well, Kelvin Scott's one of those pretty unflappable players. He just sort of gets on the job. There's no fuss with Kelvin Scott. He backs his own ability, backs his drawing ability. And here's Scott now on the forehand.
I believe the women's finals now got underway as well between Takapuna and Nelson. A bit of a delay while they had a bit of a well-earned break, I think, the Nelson players. Of course, didn't finish the semi-final until after midday. So had a bit of a breather, a chance to grab some bite to eat, some refreshments no doubt, and then we're into their final now against Takapuna, who wrapped things up a bit earlier against Nainai.
Shannon McElroy holding the shot with that front bowl. He's going to be disappointed with this one. He's away from the line, going to come under the line and will drop away. May well count possibly, but he certainly wanted to. Two shots. Marker
Ray Hunt. Darfield.
Been around for a long time. As Ray Hunt is one of the technical officials at the World Bowls in both 2008 and 2016, and a very, very accomplished player in years gone by in his own right. And it's Kelvin Scott now endeavouring to draw down inside the bowl, needs to sit inside that bowl of his own, falls over. And I'd say an indication still McElroy holding one. So that last bowl of Ray Hunt having a look.
Has he got the weight to reach here? Oh, it should be very close. Just fell out here.
I just wonder though.
Yeah, not happy McElroy.
Whether Kelvin Scott may change his hand, try and draw down through that port there. Any touch on the jack for Kelvin Scott is certainly very advantageous. You see there, if he can just drop under that front bowl of Shannon McElroy's, he's on a good line to the jack. And you'll see the three green bowls of Kelvin Scott sitting there just beyond the 2 metre mark. Only needs to move 6 inches and would change the head completely. And we're leading 6-0. And the door slightly ajar to give it a go.
Why not?
And that's for sure. So here is Kelvin Scott. Don't know if he likes that, just the bottom. No, he's out on that weighted shot with wide of the head. To be disappointed with that. So Shannon McElroy about to open his account. Ray Hunt, the marker, still having a good look. I suppose to look whether it's 1, 2 or 3. As Brennan rightly said, the jack level bowl, which was the third bowl of Shannon McElroy, certainly looks like the shot.
Yeah, but then it fell out and you heard a cry of anguish from McElroy, so he wasn't overly happy with it. Would suggest it's not. Maybe even the bowl just on that centre line from Kelvin Scott is indeed the shot. But all may change after this bowl anyway from McElroy.
Well, it's certainly on a different line, but how's the weight? Isn't it the weight to get all the way?
So it looks like 2 markers ready to go up from Ray Hunt.
We're just waiting.
Kelvin Scott made his way to the bathroom, so now he'll come down with the mat and agree whether it is 2 or not. And he accepts what the marker and McElroy have come up with. So McElroy on the board. 6-2 it is now. Kelvin Scott leading Shannon McElroy in this first 2:21 singles matchup of our men's final here at the National Interclub Sevens. The fours and pairs disciplines taking place alongside this singles matchup. But as we said time and time again, the single is so important. Usually if you can win your singles, you go a long way to progressing at tournaments or winning tournaments in this format.
So on the backhand is Shannon McElroy, scoring a 2 to open his account, trailing Kelvin Scott 6-2. And how far is this ball going to run towards the jack? Still a couple of feet lower the jack. Kelvin Scott more than capable of drawing a couple inside that. So on the backhand is Kelvin Scott trying to draw past the Shannon McElroy bowl, but it's going to be under the head. Just depends how far the weight will take it. And we'll finish still low of the jack. Shannon McElroy, the painter, and Kelvin Scott, the former painter. So McElroy needs to just get past his first, gets a touch on the front bowl.
Yes, a bit of fortune there, but works out well for him.
He had dead weight to get to the jack. It's Kelvin Scott daring to reach that Shannon McElroy bowl. Looks though it's just going to be slightly on the wider side and come back to the centre line. Will still be 2 shots to Shannon McElroy, who'll stay on that forehand side. It's Kelvin Scott leading 6 shots to 2. And this bowl of Shannon McElroy's just looks to be on a good line. Needs to get in front of his first. One and a measure was the call from Ray Hunt, the marker, when Kelvin Scott asking him what the position on the head was. So this bowl of Kelvin Scott's just questioned the line, and now it's going to come under the line again.
So a bit of a chance here for McElroy, holding shot, maybe holding 2. He can add another one just around his front 2.
Well, look like
that'll
2
be
shots.
Certainly 2, might be 3. And that will put all the pressure on Kelvin Scott with his last. Scott now making his way to the head to have a look. He hasn't had to do that too often. Hasn't felt the need to when he's been controlling proceedings. But now McElroy, having scored a 2 on the last, is now holding at least 1 on this end. Trying to capitalise with his last bowl.
Oh, Shannon McElroy got the bowl out on the wider side. And how far is it going to come back? Not going to come back far enough. Kelvin Scott, as Brendan said, having a good look at the head. And I think really his only option is that draw shot.
Well, there's certainly room to draw a good second here, isn't there?
Well, second shot's good enough, really.
McElroy will be disappointed he wasn't able to draw in front or behind his short bowls.
Kelvin Scott play on that backhand side. As Brendan said, his main thing is to try and just get past the front bolt of McElroy's to try and get to second shot. Needs to be under this bowl cleanly to get into that second shot area. And
not going to. 1 at least for McElroy. Now will they measure for the second? No, just the 1.
Just
no
the
need
1.
for the measure. So 6-3 it is now. Kelvin Scott leading Shannon McElroy. Elmwood Park up against Stoke in this men's Interclub 7s. We're bringing you the singles match. We have the fours and pairs alongside. If the singles match finishes first, we will move over and bring you coverage of the fours, which is alongside this. And if it's anything like the drama we had unfold this morning and early afternoon, love it, because it was quite sensational between Carlton Cornwall and Nelson. Firstly, if you did miss the women's semi-final we brought to you, Joe Edwards and Linda Ralph had a great game of singles in the end. Joe Edwards coming out on top of that one after coming from 15-10 down, 18-14 down to win 21-18 against Linda Ralph. That gave Nelson their first point on the board. They were behind in the pairs, but they were quite comfortably up in the fours, and looks like that's how they would clinch it against Carlton Cornwall. But they managed to give up a 15-10 lead with an interplay. Carlton Cornwall scored a 5 on the final end of 15 in the fours. That sent it to an extra end. Carlton Cornwall were holding shot, killed by Val Smith, and then on the replayed extra end they held on despite the best efforts of Ashley Jeffcoat, skip of Carlton Cornwall. So Nelson are now playing in the final of the Women's National Interclub Sevens against Takapuna, who have got some great performances out of Selena Smith, their singles player, who's 7 from 7 at the tournament. And their pair has also gone very well. Lisa Parlane and Doreen, I believe, only dropped the 1 match out of 7. So 2 big reasons why they are in the final against Nelson is Joe Edwards and Val Smith and Colleen Earl, who all part of the Nelson Inter-Centre side that won the national championships in Wellington last month, now trying to win the National Interclub title with Nelson.
Well, Lisa Parlane is my, I'd say, somewhat surprise selection for the North Island side, and especially when you're looking at backing players.
Right, there you go. Heard it there first from Kevin Icklin. We'll see what happens whenever those squads are named for that North v South. New format, of course, Ryder Cup style. Have parabolas involved as well.
So Ray Hunt, the marker, indicating to Kelvin Scott that there's a yard to draw down there. So you'll see Scott now on his backhand. Certainly wouldn't be wanting to play the forehand. There's that big wall of 3 McElroy bowls in there, and great correction here from Kelvin Scott in behind the jack, right on the centre line, and it puts the pressure immediately onto Shannon McElroy, and looking to see whether he is just 2 down or 3 down. So McElroy, of course, scored on the last 2 ends, a 2 and a 1. Kelvin Scott certainly holding the shots as Shannon McElroy makes his way back for his last bowl. Kelvin Scott still 1 to come, of course. McElroy, I'm going to be happy to get second shot.
Yeah, certainly. Needs something here, doesn't he? He could, as you say, potentially be 3 down already. If he doesn't execute here, Kelvin Scott could make it 4. See an update from the other scores. Stoke 7-0 advantage early in the fours alongside this one. And it's all square in the pairs early on. So this final, as it currently stands, is all level.
Well played here from Shannon McElroy. That's why he's the world champion.
Yeah.
That's why he's the world champ. With a bowl to come, definitely 2 down on the head. Had a good look at the head before he...
Yeah, not content with just a good second was Shannon McElroy, was he?
I got room to draw that, and he certainly drew right to the centre line and drew the shot. Kelvin Scott now making his way back.
If he can somehow remove that bowl and stay, he could be picking up 4. Take something pretty special though.
On the backhand, there's Kelvin Scott. Trying to get to the bowl of Shannon McElroy's, which
Teapot comes out.
It's
Not happy at all.
always that telling sign, isn't it?
Yeah, we didn't need to see the bowl coming down the green because we could tell from the reaction from Calvin Scott. One more to Shannon McElroy. So that's what, a 2, a 1 and a 1 to McElroy after being 6-0 down. Getting himself well and truly back in the singles match. But as you touched on earlier, Kevin, Shannon McElroy never thinks he's out of it, no matter how far down he is. And we've both seen that happen as well in person, where he's been well down in matches and ends up winning. It's not over until that final shot to get to 21.
Well, Calvin Scott had a very difficult shot to try and get to that shot, Bob, on the run, on the weighted run shot that he played, and had to be judged to absolute perfection to get the right result. As we see now, this first bowl of Shannon McElroy's will more than likely finish just low of the jack, and a metre there for Calvin Scott to draw the shot. 6-4. Shannon McElroy leading, and in the fours, as you can see that board next to us there, 3 ends gone, and it is Stoke leading Elmwood Park 7 shots to 0. That's Robbie Reid leading Lance Pascoe. As you see, Calvin Scott will draw the shot to jack level. McElroy playing his backhand. Race to 21, and this bowl of McElroy's is on a pretty good line. This bowl, as it draws towards the jack, and it sit right on top of the jack. Yes, it will. Moves it around the corner a bit, closer to what is his front bowl, jack level bowl of Calvin Scott.
Well, he's warming into his work, isn't he, Shannon McElroy? Calvin Scott started strongly. Took advantage of perhaps a bit of a slow start from McElroy. McElroy certainly getting into his work now. This is not a bad reply by Calvin Scott. Going to finish up just short by about a foot.
Very good effort from Calvin Scott. And 7-2 now. It's the Stoke side, 7-2, leading Elmwood Park in the fours. So Shannon McElroy holding the shot here. I'm sure Calvin Scott endeavour to get. Going to, looks as though the forehand side now, Scott to try and reach to the shot bowl. Here he is on the forehand, endeavouring to reach and push that shot bowl through the head. Is it going to get the jack? Is it getting the jack or the bowl? Well played from Calvin Scott. Follows it through and sits just lower the jack. Well played there from the Elmwood Park player. There you can see where the jack's been moved to, deep down on the green, just out from the number 18.
Yeah, of course, mentioned before that it's the first National Interclub Sevens that we've had in 3 years. Of course, COVID, meaning we had no 2020 tournament. There was no event in 2019. The pin was pulled after 2018. Thankfully, it was being brought back. It's been very successful here at Burnside. Is playing with weight. McElroy, he's got the jack in the ditch and killed it. So we'll have another go at that end. But yeah, as I was mentioning, Eastbourne had won the last 3 men's titles, 2016, 2017 and 2018. Gary Lawson part of the 2016 and 2018 winning sides. Also won with Eastbourne back in 2009, did Gary Lawson. But before that, Stoke had a very good run. They won it 3 times, 2010, 2013 and 2015. Shannon McElroy, a member of all 3 of those sides, as was Jimmy Pugh.
Jimmy Pugh would be in that as well.
Yeah, and David.
Peter Hodgson more than likely as well.
Yeah, Chris Aldred was member of 2 of those sides, and I think Peter Hodgson from memory was maybe in one of them. Yeah, the 2010 side wasn't there in 2013 and 2015. But so you've got players with a lot of experience winning this title for Stoke. 4 players we mentioned there have all done it, and then obviously in the Elmwood Park side you've got Gary Lawson, who's won it 3 times. So I suppose it's no surprise to see Lawson and McElroy back in a final of this tournament.
And some good news for golf followers. Lydia Ko through 9 holes of the tournament in Hawaii, and this last round sits at 23 under. Amazing. And Jenny Shin, who has finished her round, tied for second at 19 under, so midway through that round. Lydia Ko just going to be that win that she's been pursuing for so long at a four shot break. And this the last day of the LPGA tournament in Hawaii. So yeah, a great ball from McElroy, holds on to the jack, just moves it slightly closer to the Kelvin Scott bowl, but you saw there and heard through the sound effect Ray Hunt saying that the Shannon McElroy bowl is in fact 4 inches off the jack. Kelvin Scott endeavouring to draw to that very close bowl of McElroy's. He's going to sit on the bowl or get a touch on it. Falls in.
Oh, that's wow, very close.
That is the shot.
That well done. We get the indication there from the marker, Ray Hunt. So Kelvin Scott with that last bowl now, holding shot. Very tight head.
McElroy will endeavour to get down between the, what is his front bowl, 4 inches lower the jack and the Kelvin Scott bowl, to get a push into the head. But how far is this going to come all the way back? Working its way back now. Just going to go by. Shannon McElroy won't mind that actually, because he's still got one more bowl left. Now got a bowl over the head, so he can more than likely search through there with a yard of weight. What a great bowl though from Kelvin Scott. Here he is on the forehand, the Elmwood Park singles player. And as Brendan said a moment ago, the record that these 2 guys have put up in these singles in this National Interclub finals, certainly outstanding from both of them.
McElroy, perfect 8 from 8. Kelvin Scott on 5 of 7. Both won in their semi-final matchup earlier. Kelvin Scott was actually beaten in his quarter-final from memory.
In the game yesterday, in the Elmwood Park game, yes, he defeated Takaro by 21 shots to 13 yesterday.
So he hasn't had it all his own way at this tournament, unlike McElroy, who's beaten all comers, section play and then quarter-final and semi-final.
I'm sure we'll see McElroy endeavour to try and just with a yard of weight reach through that port.
Pretty used to him going through tournaments perfect. I know at the Asia Pacific Championships a couple of years ago, went through perfect in both the singles and the pairs.
It did.
Did not drop a match at all at the tournament. Taking his time over the shot, McElroy.
And he is going to play on that forehand is Shannon McElroy with a yard of weight and to try and reach through onto his own bowl or through the Kelvin Scott bowl. Needs to get the inside of it to get the right result. Not going to.
Yeah, it was really touch wide. Not much wide really, but half a bowl wide.
So it'll be interesting to see here what Kelvin Scott elects to do. He hasn't scored the last 3 ends, a 2 and 2 singles. We've seen Shannon McElroy 6-0 down, and now back to 6-4. Kelvin Scott holding the shot, and very difficult to add to the head, one would think. Needs to draw within a few centimetres to get a counter. Certainly giving it every effort, but it's going to be short of the head.
1-2 Kelvin Scott. So 7-4 he now leads Scott over McElroy in this singles contest. Men's final of the National Interclub Sevens here at the Burnside Bowling Club in Christchurch. It's great to have this tournament back. As I said, we'll be putting first winners on the men's and the women's trophies since 2018. And in fact, they've actually got a new men's trophy. They couldn't find the old men's trophy because they honestly thought in 2018 that was going to be the end of it. So
not to be.
Whoever won it from Eastbourne has probably got it on their mantelpiece somewhere.
And with the crowd here as well today, Brenton highlights that this is an event which is well supported, enjoyed by the players, and you're seeing high quality of, as we saw in that singles game this morning, we certainly saw, and the fours, of course, the finish of that extra end. The quality certainly not lacking in these inter-club finals, and remember, in 27 clubs have won their way through to be here, won their
27 centres, isn't it? But it's
27
probably
centres,
about 51, 52 clubs, I think. Something like that. There's only a few clubs who are here in both the men and women. I think by my count there was 3.
So it's a great representation from around the country, from North Cape to the deep south. And it's an event that I know when it was reintroduced again by Bowls New Zealand, that the clubs were very, very delighted that the Interclub was back on the Bowls New Zealand playing calendar.
Yeah, from I think Kerry to Rangi. The clubs that have been represented here, and all those in between from east to west coast as well. Obviously, with likes of West End out of Taranaki and teams out of Gisborne, team out of West Coasts, of course, one of the centres.
It's interesting about Gisborne. Talking this morning to Mark O'Connor, the president of Bowls New Zealand, that David File, former New Zealand player, I think he was skipping the fours for Gisborne, and I think if you look through you'll see he actually won 6 from 6, which is a fantastic effort by the former New Zealand player.
It certainly is. It shows that the talent that's spread around the country as well. Clubs from north to south. And it makes it even more impressive that 2 Nelson centre sides and clubs and made it through to the respective finals. Stoke for the men, Nelson for the women, Elmwood Park, of course, local club here out of Christchurch. These will be relatively familiar conditions for them here at Burnside. And then you've got Takapuna out of the North Harbour Centre.
Well played by Kelvin Scott. Drew right to the McElroy bowl. Shannon McElroy trying to get to the shot bowl or get inside the second shot bowl of Kelvin Scott. A couple of bowls low of weight as Kelvin Scott, the Elmwood Club, leading Elmwood Park Club, leading from 7 shots to 4.
Lance Pascoe is passing by our camera. Skip of the Elmwood Park 4. We were in early 7-0 hole. Now certainly coming back into proceedings. Last update I think we saw a 7-2 there, didn't we, at one stage?
7-2 but a moment ago. And Kelvin Scott trying to add to the count here. Holding 2. So going to come back far enough. Trying hard to get all the way back. And no, don't think so.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah, so he is wearing the Stoke National Interclub Champions 2015 hat as well. The last time they won this title before the Eastbourne three-peat.
Chris Aldred, of course, been with the Stoke Club for a long, long time. Played for, also played many games for Nelson in the Intercenter competitions. So Shannon McElroy down on the head, trailing 7 shots to 4 with his last bowl. And there's some Gisborne McElroy supporters there at the back of the green, I see there as well. And is going to get the result here as McElroy, no, just well, took one of the Kelvin Scott bowls out of the head, which was a counter at that point. 2 it is.
So another good end for Kelvin Scott. So 9-4 it will now be. 9-4. Kelvin Scott leading Shannon McElroy. And this is the singles contest of the Men's National Interclub Sevens final here at Burnside Bowling Club. We have the fours and the pairs taking place alongside. And further down the green, number 1 green here at Burnside, we have the women's final. Takapuna, who we saw so impressive in their quarter-final against Queenstown yesterday morning. And also Nelson, who had that heart-stopping semi-final win over Carlton Cornwall early this afternoon.
Another good opening bowl from Kelvin Scott, right to the centre line, back toucher.
He has been the more consistent of the two. That's why he's in this position against Shannon McElroy.
Certainly has been, and it comes back to at this point of the game, Brendan, is that first bowl effectiveness which Kelvin Scott has been able to put the pressure on early on McElroy. Not to be outdone though, as Shannon McElroy gets a touch on what is the shot bowl, rolls it over once. Kelvin Scott now will endeavour to draw to that shot bowl, the second shot bowl of Shannon McElroy's on the forehand. A couple of years ago, of course, Kelvin Scott out of the playing for a couple of seasons, had a major back issue, had back surgery, and literally couldn't walk. He was had to sort of get his mobility back and was off the greens. You wouldn't think so now. He's back to his normal self. So Shannon McElroy now changing his hand to the backhand, trying to get down to the jack trail or the shot bowl, just going to slip by.
You can see what he was trying to do, couldn't you?
Certainly.
He could move that jack back to his other bowl. Could have had 2 shots there, wasn't far away.
Kelvin Scott now will be endeavouring to get some cover to where those 2 Shannon McElroy bowls sit. And of course it draws inside them. It would count as well. That breaks down towards the head now, maybe slightly under the line, and is going to be, but may just cut some of that line off for McElroy down there, and it will. Just makes it harder now to play that trail shot, Brendan, with that. Needs to get just around that front bowl now of Kelvin Scott's to get down to the shot bowl of the jack on the back end is McElroy.
If anyone can thread the needle, it is McElroy. Probably asking a bit too much for that one.
Great attempt. Great attempt. And as you said earlier on this morning, Brendan, and just with those front bowls there, just makes that judgment line that much more difficult to try and get down to the shot bowl or jack, because
you usually make the overcorrection, isn't it? Going a touch wide or a touch heavy, and McIlroy was just a touch wide. Wasn't much in it, but he was just a touch wide and didn't quite have the right line to get at the jack.
And of course, once you get that fraction wide, if you've got that extra metre of weight on, it's just not going to work back for you. Kelvin Scott here with his last bowl is going to be under the head for sure, and will drift away. And still holding the one shot. McIlroy would ideally like to be able to get down there on that backhand side to get that jack trail, or he may look at playing searching weight down on the other hand. And he's shaking his head. He knows it's a difficult head now to play at. Perhaps if he plays the other hand, gets down with weight to try and get to the shot bowl.
I think that's what he's going back to, isn't it? I think for a moment he was looking at coming down with a more weighted shot, potentially on the forehand side, but I think he's gone back to what his initial plan was and what he tried with his third bowl. Coming through that port on the right of screen and amongst all the Kelvin Scott bowls.
Trailing 9-4 is Shannon McIlroy, and one down on the head in this race to 21.
See the scores from the other disciplines. So Stoke now leading in the pairs and the fours. So 6-5, a slender advantage in the pairs, and the fours, after they jumped up to a 7-0 lead, it's now 8-2 to the Rory Reid skipped.
And McIlroy,
who did attempt that forehand weighted shot. Didn't hit the target though, so it should be one more to Kelvin Scott, who is first to double digits, 10-4. He now leads Shannon McIlroy. So it's the only match at the moment Elmwood Park are leading, because Stoke, who have a strong lead in the fours and a slender advantage in the pairs at this stage.
Difficult shot for Shannon McIlroy, but more than likely the best shot option rather than trying to dead draw it or get the jack trail. Just see Lance Pascoe drive, and the jack came back out. You'll see it rolling back onto the green there, and went for the jack in the ditch.
And that's a very unfortunate result. And it looks like instead of potentially grabbing the shot, Elmwood Park has gone the other way too for Stoke. So Stoke will be extending their lead in the fours.
You certainly got the jack. Pascoe got the jack clean. I just happened to see it out of the side of the view there, but the jack bounced all the way back. So he's now Kelvin Scott on his backhand, playing up towards the Avonhead end here at Burnside, with this very good crowd in to watch the final of this Bowls New Zealand 2021 National Men's and Women's Interclub Finals. Splendid weather.
Good that you know your geography down here. I get lost all the time. Being an Auckland boy who's used to, seeing volcanoes to use as markers, or sky tower, big building. It's just all flat here. I've got no idea where my north, east, west, south is around here.
Well, the airport's down that way.
Is it behind us? Right. No idea. Absolutely no idea. That's why I get lost when I go for runs. I probably need a tracker beacon when I go for runs around Christchurch.
Burnside Club, of course, very close to the Christchurch airport, and was headquarters for so many of the big international events between 2008 and 2016, as we see Kelvin Scott really putting the pressure on. Draws lower the jack, but only a few inches away, will more than likely force McIlroy very early in the piece to look at that change of hand. He's still trying to get down on that forehand shot. He's really, to be fair, McIlroy is trying hard to get some consistency in his play, but Kelvin Scott is just not allowing it, because he's just been in those effective bowls early on in his 4 bowls, getting them close to the jack. And the good thing for Kelvin Scott, he can play confidently to the head because everything's lower the jack besides his shot bowl. As we watch this bowl of Kelvin Scott, which is certainly going to pull up short as well. Yeah, I just wonder whether the shot option for Shannon McElroy is really down on that forehand in between those 2 bowls there. Brenton, try and get to the jack, and that's what McElroy with his 3rd bowl is going to attempt to do.
Changing hands. Try and come through that corridor on the forehand side or come around the wider bowl of his. It's on a decent line, but he might run into that wider bowl. It does.
Well, he wasn't going to be far away, really.
The weight looked good, didn't it? Looked on a good track. Just unfortunately had that bowl there.
Looked on a very good track. And the women's final underway, although about 20 minutes behind the men's because of the late finish in the Carlton Cornwall Nelson game. That final between Takapuna, who defeated Naino this morning, and Nelson, who was defeated in that real nail biter, defeated Carlton Cornwall of Auckland.
Yeah, both going down to the final discipline. So both semi-finals won 2-1 by Takapuna and Nelson. Singles, both going, this is the trend, both going the way of the semi-final victor. So Nelson and Takapuna.
Pressure really on Shannon McElroy here now, down 10-4, 2 down on the head. And to be fair, at this stage of the game, Brenton, it's the drawing ability of Kelvin Scott just hasn't enabled or allowed Shannon McElroy to settle into a rhythm or a hand to get a good line on. He's sort of been trying to rescue heads, I suppose you would say.
Yeah, he's been playing a lot of catch-up.
Well, he has, and surprisingly with Shannon McElroy, he's played a number of short bowls as well, which is not really normally in the Shannon McElroy repertoire of shots. So here's McElroy now on the forehand, trying to get through that port you can see at the front to get to where the Kelvin Scott counting bowls are. And we'll see in a moment whether he's on the outside, but might have been fortuitous, and he was.
Yeah, he gets a lot of fortune there, and he might have robbed this one from Kelvin Scott. Yeah,
it did.
Has to give away the mat. Kelvin Scott's unlucky there, because that's certainly some fortune for Shannon McElroy. 10-5 it is now. Could have been 12-4. There's quite a difference between those two scorelines.
Well, he was outside the scoring zone really with that bowl. Brendan wasn't just fortunate to get what was one of his own bowls and be able to roll it directly into the head. The mat's been brought up quite some distance here by Shannon McElroy. The jack's coming down just under the 2 metre mark. So really it's a pretty short end that they're playing in front of this very good crowd here at Burnside this afternoon.
Yeah, switching it up, McElroy trying to do something different, trying to get going. Kelvin Scott got off to a great start, 6-0 he led. McElroy pegged that back to 6-4, but then Kelvin Scott went on another scoring run until a rather fortuitous start, and this may be the length that he likes. Yeah. Right on the money to start this end is McElroy.
Well, there's that front toucher, which is the ideal bowl to open the head up playing singles. Kelvin Scott, though, he'll just continue what he likes doing best, and that's drawing, and that's a pretty good effort. About half a metre in behind the jack. McElroy now will play another one down on his forehand. Certainly been a game of runs so far, isn't it? First 4 ends went Kelvin Scott's way, then the next 3 ends went McElroy's, then the next 3 ends went Scott's. Now we're going to see another run, this time by McElroy. Well, we've seen the best consistency of his drawing so far in this final. And really Kelvin Scott has got no other option but to change his hand and try and reach down to the 2 counting bowls. 2 well played bowls there from McElroy, and his endeavour on that backhand to reach down through those 2 counting bowls. Is it going to come back far enough? Looks to just hang on the outside. Does it? Yes, it does. So I'm sure Shannon McElroy now, Brendan, will stay on that forehand but try and get in between the green bowler Kelvin Scott's and just towards the ditch, try and get some cover down there. Go and have a look. Shannon McElroy, no doubt having a look to see that if there is jack movement, where it's likely to go.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
And literally the chalk mark you can see just out down from that green bowl, you would think is the ideal spot for Shannon McElroy to go to. Kelvin Scott has already sort of played his hand by the weight that he just played with that his second bowl, so I'm sure that's sort of the weight.
So you're saying the check, the little chalk mark that was at the bottom, towards the bottom of the screen, right towards the middle? That's
sort of the natural jack line if Kelvin Scott was fortunate to get the jack. And he certainly played with the weight. That to me would confirm to Shannon McElroy, let's hold on to these 2 at this stage and endeavour to get some jack high covering on the head, but he's not going to do so. He's going to be disappointed with that because, well, that's not an easy shot for Kelvin Scott to play. It certainly, there's no risk in him playing the shot. Be desperately unlucky to get his own bowl which sits in behind the head, and he's not really playing with weight, which would, you'd say, would move the bowl too far. Playing for the jack is Kelvin Scott. Is it going to come back enough? This is a better line here. This is the shot we were talking about, Brendan. This is the shot we were talking about.
Absolute perfection from Kelvin Scott.
Just in between.
There was only room for a bowl, and he got it exactly right to get the jack, go through between the 2 McElroy bowls and grab the shot back. That is brilliant from Kelvin Scott.
It certainly was, and the highlights really, Brendan, where Shannon McElroy really wanted to get to with that his last bowl, his 3rd bowl, in fact, to give that cover. But that shot there was just controlled, really draw weight, just a fraction, a slight bit over the head. McElroy on the drive, and he's got nothing. It's a frustration drive, that, because he was quite a way off target, really, Brendan, when you look
is Scott potentially holding 2 here? Or is it
I'd
just
say so. He's asking Ray Hunt. Now this 2. Yeah, this
so
becomes a big end.
3 here. What a turnaround that is from McElroy. First 2 bowls, holding 2, looking in command. Kelvin Scott plays an absolute bomb, turns it from 2 down to 2 up, and now he's got a chance to make it 3.
Could be a 5-shot turnaround, really, if he gets 3 shots here.
And you'd back him. You'd back him to draw here.
And he is going to.
Yeah.
And he will.
Well done, Kelvin Scott. So certainly those 2 will be taken away, and I think McElroy has conceded it is a 3. So now an 8-shot advantage and a 5-shot swing, as you said. It was looking like McElroy was going to cut it to 10-7. Instead, it's now 13-5. Kelvin Scott leading Shannon McElroy. And this is a position Stoke have not been in at these National Interclub 7s, because McElroy has been perfect 8 from 8 in the singles, and he's dominated and really set up Stoke's victories.
But also showed the class of Kelvin Scott with that bowl that he played. Shannon McElroy had 2 bowls literally locked in, but then locked on the jack, just the jack in between them. And Kelvin Scott came through and didn't actually touch anything else except the jack. Got a trail on the jack, moved it a couple of feet, and thus picking up 3 shots resultant from that. McElroy had, as I said, a frustration drive, and it was off target, and saw Kelvin Scott pick up a 3. Here's Shannon McElroy now. This is a better opening bowler. McElroy's. This will certainly be the shot, and just drifts by the jack.
Just looking through to see who scored the most against McElroy. So round 1, he did get 13 scored against him, against Parapara Umu Beach. 21-13 victor was McElroy. And round 2, 21-9 over Wanganui. And then in round 3, Stoke, where are we? And the singles, 21-20. So that was Point Chev's Aidan Takarua. So he was certainly tested in the 3rd round. 4th round, he had a bye. Round 5, 21-4 against Balclutha. Round 6, it was 21-12, and then 21-6 in round 7. So it was that round 3 fixture against Aidan Takarua, which was the big challenge. Section play, otherwise he really was quite comfortable.
10-2.
Yeah.
Stoke leading the 4s over Elmwood Park. 10-2 after 7 of the 15 ends.
Well, they need the 4s given how the singles is going. They need the 4s and the pairs to Stoke.
There's Kelvin Scott here. He's going to draw the shot again. Just draws around at the front bowl. Shannon McElroy now onto his backhand. Pretty good display to date from Kelvin Scott, the Elmwood Park player. There's a good line from Shannon McElroy, but how's the weight? Needs to get past the bowl cleanly. Doesn't do so. Just rolled the Kelvin Scott bowl over. Kelvin Scott making his way back to the mat. We'll get an update on those other scores shortly, because we've got a runaway at this point in time to Stoke in the 4s, and a convincing lead to Elmwood Park in the singles. So it'll be interesting to see what's happening in that pairs. That's Gary Lawson, of course, up against Peter Hodson.
I'll look out and see what's happening in the women's final as well. In the meantime, the scores are coming through. Just try it first. I've got to find out who's on each rink. It looks like the singles are on the furthest rink away. That's, of course, Joe Edwards taking on Selena Smith. One thing is that the colours are very similar between the Nelson strip and the Takapuna strip.
Yes, they are. Yeah, they are.
Relatively similar. So on the far board, it is looks like Selena Smith is leading Joe Edwards 10-7. The first to 21, that being in the singles. The pairs are the next one along, and that one is going all Takapuna's way, it looks of it. 10-1, I believe, is the score. And then in the 4s, Nelson a slender 4-3 advantage after 5 of the 15 ends. So Takapuna leading 2 of the 3 disciplines at this stage in the women's final, which is taking place here on the number 1 green here at Burnside.
So that's Lisa Parlane, the pairs skip for the Takapuna side, continuing as McElroy on the drive, trying to drive through the port to get to the shot bowl. I never want to say that Shannon McElroy's struggling, but he's finding it very challenging out there this afternoon to sort of hold back this very, very good draw playing that we've seen from Kelvin Scott.
Another for him, so 9 shot advantage now, 14-5. Kelvin Scott leading in the singles. He's 7 away from giving Elmwood Park their first point. It'll be a bit of a surprise point, not one they were banking on, obviously hoping for, but not banking on. And you're going up against the world champion McElroy, who's been a perfect 8 from 8 here at these National Winter Club 7s in Christchurch.
Well, a very handy lead for Kelvin Scott, but we all know that with when ends don't count, this is the old story in singles, you never run out of ends, you just run out of points. So for Shannon McElroy's point of view, he needs to get back into his draw and get some consistency. Of course, you can only get that consistency when the opposition allow you.
Well, that's the thing. He thought he probably had got it going previous time playing this way. Two great bowls to start.
Bowls.
And it took an absolute cracker from Kelvin Scott, talking arguably the best bowl we've seen today.
Oh, it's magnificent.
To deny him. He can't be too disheartened with that. You know what? Took an absolute stunning bowl from Kelvin Scott. I've just got to get back to what I was doing here. And this is a great example of it.
So there is
more of this.
Shannon McElroy bowl.
And if Kelvin Scott beats me when I play like this, I've got to accept that.
You can't do anything about it.
Exactly right. And McElroy will know that. He can only do what he can do. If Kelvin Scott just plays better, and he will understand and accept it. Kelvin Scott has been very impressive.
Certainly has been. Here's another good bowl from Scott coming into the head now, and it's just going to sit jack low, falls over, falls out, not in, and whether it's shot or not 100% sure, but a very good bowl from Kelvin Scott, the Elmwood Park singles player.
Sorry, Kevin, I've got the results as well from Kelvin Scott in section play, so a chance to run through them. So first up, he had Featherston, 21-8 winner in the singles, and then lost 21-20 against Browns Bay in the second round. Third round, 21-13 over West End of South Canterbury, and then in the fourth round, a 19-12 win over West End of Taranaki. So that's Dean Elgar, of course, so two past national singles champions going head to head, and then in the final round, 21-0 win over Westport. Bullet, of course. So a couple of defeats in section play, or one defeat rather, then another defeat in the quarter-final yesterday. 21-20 win over Seamus Curtin earlier.
And Shannon McElroy, of course, is unbeaten.
Yes, 8 from 8. That closest being Aidan Takarua, who forced him the distance, 21-20 in round 3, I think it was. And just like Selena Smith is unbeaten in the women's singles, Jo Edwards has had the one loss. That was in the opening round, but has won her last 6 as Jo Edwards in section play, and then quarter-final and semi-final. We bang on about it, but the singles discipline so important. All 4 finalists won their singles in the semi-finals.
It's paramount. So Kelvin Scott now holding the shot, leading 14-5. He's got the bowl out on this wider arc, trying to get to the Shannon McElroy bowl to sit on that bowl. And he sits on the bowl. He didn't want to do that. Moved the jack around the corner. It'll be interesting to see what the story is.
Might hold shot though. It's been pretty close between that and the McElroy bowl.
So Kelvin Scott endeavouring to sit the what was the second shot bowl, to sit it out of the head. It was a wee bit unlucky. Moved the jack around the corner. Indication there from Ray Hunt, if I'm not mistaken, was indicating that it was still Kelvin Scott holding the shot. And interesting, McElroy has gone to the backhand. Was he going to get onto one of his own front bowls as well here? Turned that a couple of times. May not need to. He's going to draw it here. He's going to get the jack. He's going to get the...
How was that missed?
That had the jack all the way.
Such was the closeness of that. Someone smashing into the camera in excitement.
I was sure that he had the jack clean. And it was the 1-2 Kelvin Scott.
McElroy just takes Kelvin Scott's word. He trusts Scott. So 10 shot advantage now for the Elmwood Park player in the singles, Kelvin Scott, over the world champion Shannon McElroy. That's good. A big step towards Elmwood Park winning their first National Interclub Sevens. Of course, they won the Bowls 3-5 National Interclub last year. They've done wonders in recent times. Gary Lawson has brought together a very strong bunch of players at Elmwood Park. Of course, along with himself and Kelvin Scott, Lance Pascoe too, member of the side, and recently crowned National Peers Champion, of course, at the start of the year at Carlton Cornwall, winning that Peers title with Jamie Hill, and in very fine fashion as well, well deserved. Pascoe having recently moved to Lower Hutt, I believe becoming a member of the Stakes Valley Bowling Club. It's actually going to be very interesting come Bowls 3-5 time who gets his services, because I don't think Stakes Valley will be very happy if he turns out in Elmwood Park colours when he's just joined their club.
And just a week ago or 2 weeks ago won the Wellington Triples. Famous Seamus Curtin was in that side. And of course, Mandy Wood. So,
well, it's rich getting richer potentially with the Stakes Valley Vipers, but there could be a bit of a dispute coming, I think, between Stakes Valley and Elmwood Park Saints come Bowls 3-5, but that's still months away. Nothing to concern ourselves with at the moment, but
they'll certainly have some players to pick from, won't they?
Absolutely. Stakes Valley, of course, the reigning champions of Bowls 3-5. So they've really got a very strong side. Two of their players right and behind Shannon McElroy right now. You see Finbar McGuigan there. And also with Finbar is Seamus Curtin. Two members of that successful Bowls 3-5 side. They've got Cole Toomey amongst their ranks as well. Caleb Hope.
Here's another great attempt by Kelvin Scott. Is going to sit on the bowl. Look at this. This is outstanding. May still be one down, but two very, very good bowls from the Elmwood Park singles player, leading Shannon McElroy by 15 shots to 5. He is now McElroy on the backhand. And this is going to be under the line. So having a good look at the head is Kelvin Scott to see whether he's got the shot or not, or whether it is the back bowl of Shannon McElroy's who have got the shot. Kelvin Scott has been very, very consistent this afternoon on the draw.
See Stoke leading the two other disciplines. So Peers 10-8 and the fours tightened up a bit, 10-6. Stoke now leading in the fours. They did jump out to an early 7-0 lead. It's been a lot closer since that moment. And Stoke leading the Peers 10-8. So while they're down here in the singles, they are leading the other two disciplines, Stoke, as they try and win their fourth National Interclub title in 11 years.
So on that bowl there, the way how Kelvin Scott is deliberately, one would assume, certainly got that out on the wider side, didn't want to risk anything by being under the line. Maybe I'll indicate he's confident that he may have the shot difficult to see from our position. You can see the Shannon McElroy bowl directly in behind the jack. Having a really good look at the head is Shannon McElroy.
Don't know if I've ever seen McElroy make as many visits to the head.
He's certainly done some walking, hasn't he, in this game too.
Calvin Scott just going to see what's happening on the other rinks. I'll see that fours as well as the pairs are down. So I want to get the first point on the board here, take a bit of the pressure off.
Well, Shannon McElroy is certainly on a pretty good line. This one, as it breaks down towards the head, you're going to get the jack sit inside the bowls. He will. Flops
beautiful.
Over.
That'll be two.
That's two for sure to McElroy.
Oh, lovely. That just shows his class. And that's why he had the long visit down to the head. He was able to execute as well. So 2 lollipops go up. And Shannon McElroy scores an important 2. 15-7 it is now in this singles matchup. That is only the 5th end that he scored on.
Certainly has scored 3 singles and 2 twos. So the consistency of Calvin Scott has been pretty evident throughout the match to date.
But 10 ends that Calvin Scott has scored on, so it reflects on the scoreboard.
So will we now see Shannon McElroy, after playing that magnificent bowl, turn it into 2 shots? He's got a good opening bowl here as McElroy, as it just makes its way towards the jack, just goes past the jack on the centre line and sits just a few feet or a few inches in behind the jack. Good opening bowl. Calvin Scott will follow that down. On his forehand. Because the women's final as well, Takapuna versus Nelson, being played also out here on this back green at Burnside. As the Calvin Scott bowl's not going to quite run all the way to the jack. He hasn't played many bowls of that short, been that short throughout this match.
Stick my head out the window again and see if we can see some of those scores. A few of the boards are being constructed at the moment. I think from memory that 4s was the closest board to us. I think that might be 12-2. No, that'll be the 4s, won't it? Pairs rather. So the pairs 12-2 in Takapuna's favour. The 4s 5-3 in Nelson's favour. That's after 6 ends. 7 ends completed in the pairs, and in the singles 11-8. Shalina Smith leading Joe Edwards. So Takapuna up in 2 of the 3, and certainly not far behind in the 4s. So pretty strong position. They're in command of the pairs. So looking good, pretty good for Takapuna in the women's final.
As we see the Calvin Scott bowl just rest on the Shannon McElroy bowl. Marker Ray Hunt indicating to Shannon McElroy that you're holding 1. Here's McElroy again on that forehand side where he's played 2 very good bowls. It's endeavouring to get another bowl close in on the head. This is on a good line, this bowl of McElroy's, as it makes its way towards the jack. Hear applause from the crowd. And so going to have a look is Calvin Scott. 2 down. We just heard the call there to Ray Hunt. You'll see there what a magnificent bowl, Brenton, right behind the jack.
I've seen some pretty high calibre heads. Calvin Scott has certainly been central to those, but McElroy starting to find his rhythm perhaps. It's a dangerous sign if you're Calvin Scott. You've got to try and rise to that same level, and he has been capable of doing it. Can he play another bomb? Last time, well, a couple of ends ago, playing this way, Calvin Scott managed to thread the needle.
And you'll see there, there's a metre and a bit in behind the head. And a very, very difficult head to play at. And I'm sure Shannon McElroy will just endeavour to keep that draw going on that forehand side. He's played 3 good bowls
Calvin
today.
Scott just applauding some of the teammates nearby, and the fallers and the peers, of course.
Slightly wider is this bowl of McElroy's, but certainly well weighted again. Just going to go by. Definitely holding 2 shots, 15-7. Trails.
Just confirming the scores in the women's final. I think Takapuna have just picked up a decent number in the pairs, or excuse me, Nelson in the pairs. So after being considerably down, they're right in it at 12-7. Takapuna leading Nelson after 7 of 18 ends in the pairs. After 6 of 15 ends in the fours, it is Nelson leading Takapuna 5-3. And in the singles, it is Selena Smith leading Joe Edwards 11-8. So confirming that Takapuna are up in 2 of the 3 disciplines. It's in our women's final. We are featuring here the men's final. Stoke and Elmwood Park, and in particular the singles. He's not far away there, Calvin Scott. He's going to be dropping a 2 by the looks of things, and clawing his way back here. Shannon McElroy, back-to-back 2s, and that'll make it 15-9.
18 ends I've played today, 15-9, 18 ends, so they're tuning through the ends pretty quickly as well, Brendan.
Yeah, haven't been playing an hour and a half as of yet. So 6 behind now. It was 10 behind just a couple of ends ago. It shows how quickly it can change. McElroy, oh, no, he's still absolutely in the hunt here.
What a great crowd looking out there now, Brenton, isn't it? But out in front of the clubhouse, around
Standing
the green.
room only.
Yeah, fantastic crowd here for the last day of this National Interclub Finals. Great to see.
A beautiful autumn day. Can't see any clouds in the sky from our commentary position. Just blue. Temperature was expected to reach 20-21 degrees today. Nice change from, I think, the high of 12 was yesterday. Currently 19 degrees here in Burnside, Christchurch. Nice and comfortable for the players, as you can see. It's all t-shirts, shorts, compared to the jackets we had on to start the day, and full length kit we had on for all the players yesterday to keep them dry and warm.
Calvin Scott and Shannon McElroy is going to draw inside the bowl, sit on his own bowl, falls inwards. I'm sure that'll be the shot.
I've seen a change. I just saw the scoreboard and the fours. Elmwood Park are now leading Stoke 11-10.
That's a huge turnaround.
They were 7-0 down, so it's been 11-3 since that moment. So you can see why Calvin Scott was applauding. And there you can see the scoreboard just to the right of screen. Elmwood Park, after 9 of the 15 ends, a 1-shot advantage.
So another good bowl here from Shannon McElroy. Is he going to get a touch on the jack? That's what he wants. Touch on the jack makes 3. And he did just that.
Oh, warming up into his work very nicely here. And if I was Calvin Scott, the alarm bells would be ringing. I'd be worried because I've played very well and built this nice lead, but Shannon McElroy is coming. He's picked up 2s on the last couple of ends, holding 3 now, and I'm going to have to come up with some big shots to deny him, and this isn't going to change the situation here.
Trying to get second shot was Kelvin Scott. Needed to be wider on the head, on the draw to get out to the 2 Shannon McElroy bowls to draw in between them, and I'm sure McElroy will endeavour to actually play into that port, because that will then literally cover the shot that Kelvin Scott wanted to play. And if you can get inside that port, certainly would count and make the options very, very difficult for Kelvin Scott. He doesn't,
hates this one.
Doesn't like this one.
Doesn't usually give up too much emotion, does he, Shannon McElroy, compared to some players?
Early on, though, we knew that
he didn't like it.
He did not. What it has done, though, is if Kelvin Scott elected to try and attack the head on the forehand up through that very, very narrow port,
it does give McElroy the back bowl.
Gives him the back bowl, holds shots on the head, and gives him the back bowl as well. Kelvin Scott, though, is not the sort of player who likes dropping big numbers. So on the forehand, looks like Kelvin Scott is going to play. It's 3 down on the head. Trying to get down to the jack. It's got to get past the front. It's not going to.
So, another big end for Shannon McElroy. 3 more for him. So 2, 2, 3, and he was 10 down. Now he's only 3 down. 15-12 it is. And this singles matchup is well and truly alive. And this is one of the strengths of Shannon McElroy. He is not out of it until you score 21.
Absolutely. That's the way he is, and that's why he's had all the success that he's had internationally, of course. And not to deny in any way the ability that Kelvin Scott as a singles player brings to this final. Very, very accomplished singles player. McElroy just seems to have got into his rhythm now. And here's another very, very good opening bowl from Shannon McElroy. Just going to go by the jack, past the centre line. Be very happy with that opening bowl. And all of a sudden we see what wasn't happening before. Brendan, is the consistency that Shannon McElroy is getting, which all of a sudden just moves the pressure around a wee bit.
Well, I see the updated leaderboard. Look at the pairs. Stoke up 15-8. So, Gary Lawson and Nathan Glasson, who have been a perfect 7 from 7 here at the National Interclub Sevens in the pairs, down against Pete Hodgson and Graham Grocott. So, that is an interesting one. Stoke up in the pairs. They are trailing in the 4s and the singles. 4s 11-10 and the singles.
The jack touch from McElroy again.
15-12, but given it was 15-5 in the singles mere, minutes ago.
3 ends ago.
It certainly feels like there's a momentum shift in this contest.
The resident Shannon McElroy again has drawn the toucher. Just moved the jack slightly, whether it made 2 or not sure. 11-10 in that 4s match. So Kelvin Scott now, the pressure on Scott. Looks as though it's just going to dip under the centre line, and will do so. More than likely had good weight, and it was finished literally jack level. Shannon McElroy will stay on that forehand side. No any touches in his favour. Just playing on the draw. So, and again another good line here from McElroy, following the line of his previous 3. And if he gets the back of the jack, no he doesn't, sits on the inside the Kelvin Smiths. Scott Bowl, and ask him how many down am I? Is it 2, 3?
2 down.
2 down is the call. So Kelvin Scott now is the player that needs to play the big bowls. McElroy getting into a roll. Playing for the jack is Kelvin Scott. Playing for the jack. In fact, got the other one of the counting bowls out. So
That's
just
a very good effort.
Great effort by Kelvin Scott. Just the one now. 2.
You think so? The last bowl of McElroy holding shot. What Scott will take some heart from is that he was in a very similar position against Seamus Curtin, wasn't he? He led 15-7.
Yes, he did.
Ended up being 15 all, and then prevailed 21-20.
So Kelvin Scott's another player where the scoreboard's not going to worry him. He just knows that he's got to get to 21. We've played 19 ends so far. He's not worried about how many ends it may take. He just wants to just stay in the contest. And the ball's going to come up short now. There's the track now for Kelvin Scott.
In between the two McElroy bowls on the right hand side of the screen, if he come in between there, trail the jack back to where he's got those 2 catches, to make it 3.
If he gets between those 2 bowls, Brendan, he's on a direct line to the jack. And the key thing is just to get inside that line, and that will give him that result. One would think he'd be desperately unlucky not to, if he can get through that port there, not to get the very favourable result for the Elmwood Park singles player. Here he is on the backhand.
I think I just saw 4 signalled by Elmwood Park next door in the 4s as well. So
here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. How's that?
Brilliantly done. Not the 3, I don't think, but it certainly looks like 2.
It was well played.
Oh, brilliantly played by Kelvin Scott.
Absolutely superbly played.
Had to stop this run of momentum by McElroy, and he has. And now he's going to be 1 end away, potentially 3 here. Ray Hunt, the marker, looks like he's got 3 lollipops ready to go.
As you said, Brendan, the result was there for him if he get in between that port, and he got through there perfectly to get to the shot bowl. It's 3.
Oh, that one's closer, isn't it?
Coming round to
is
the
this
4th.
one closer too? No.
3 it is.
So 18-12 now. Yeah, well done, Kelvin Scott. Looked like Shannon McElroy was just heating up. He scored 7 shots on the previous 3 ends. He started this end well. Kelvin Scott, though, played the big shots when it mattered, back to back.
You're right, because he played the 3rd bowl and 4th bowl. Both of them conversion shots. Well, the first one, of course, was a reduction shot, and leaving just Shannon McElroy holding the 1 shot, and then played that conversion shot. As we said in the commentary, if he could get down through that port, certainly it was all to his advantage, and he took that. And just with the right weight, everything just played perfectly. And we have seen Kelvin Scott play a couple of those bowls. He played one, of course, earlier on when Shannon McElroy had 2 bowls literally locked on the jack, and Kelvin Scott moved the jack. So big end there.
Now just 1 end away, potentially, for Kelvin Scott. 3 shots needed to put the first point on the board for Elmwood Park. 15-10 it is in the 4s to Elmwood Park. They did indeed pick up a 4 on the previous end.
It's a big turnaround for the early on in that game, isn't it? So
well, it's 15-3 after being 7-0 to Stoke, so that is some turnaround. And the pairs, the last update we had was Stoke was well in control of the pairs. So you think a lot of it's going to hinge on this singles contest here.
There's a toucher from Scott, just drifts by the jack by half a metre. Touch him. He left the door open, of course. It was a metre short with his first, was Kelvin Scott. But Shannon McElroy with his first bolt just couldn't quite capitalise on it. And now, definitely down on the head. Here's McElroy now on the backhand, trailing 18 shots to 12 in the race to 21 against a very well performed Kelvin Scott of the Elmwood Park Club. And here's the Shannon McElroy bowl, needs to get to the, goes past in fact, what is the shot bowl? So there's a chance here now for the pressure to really be applied by the Elmwood Park singles player after he played that magnificent bowl on the last end to score 3. Run the Shannon McElroy bowl out of the head and get a touch on the jack, and needs to get past his own front bowl here and will do so, but still plenty of room left for Shannon McElroy. Definitely holding 2 is, well, in fact only 3 is Kelvin Scott holding, but a metre for McElroy to draw the shot. How far is this going to come back? It's coming back now. This may well be the shot. This bowl of McElroy's just breaking towards the head and will be shot. Will sit in fact on the Kelvin Scott bowl.
It certainly looks like it. Just had some banana cake delivered into a commentary position. Made sure I ate mine at the soonest possible moment. Kevin, you can take a bit of a break if you want to eat yours. Still get your banana there as well. Make sure you have your fruit.
I got in the fruit, mate. So Ray Hunt was asked then by Kelvin Scott, who's got the shot, and he indicated, Ray Hunt, that it was still a measure. So he's still in, playing his 4th bowl on this end to really put the pressure
Turns
on.
his back on this
short. You can see that easily.
Opening here for McElroy. He can convert here. It's a measure for shot according to Ray Hunt, the marker. But if he can get rid of any doubt, especially if it's the bowl relatively close to his that's maybe in contention for shot, and get rid of that. Potentially make it 2 here. Can tighten up the margin once more. McElroy with the final bowl of this end. Following it down, he's have a bit less weight with it from his previous that just ran past. Looks pretty handy from McElroy. This should be the shot. Is short. Might be pretty close between all of them here. I think Kelvin Scott's going to get the measure out to decide this. So going back to his firstly. Alongside that is the McElroy bowl. And it's just 1, 2 McElroy, so they didn't need to come over to that last bowl of McElroy, so it wasn't close enough. Needed another roll or 2 to count. So 5-shot margin now. Kelvin Scott leading Shannon McElroy 18-13. This is the singles matchup. You can see our extended scoreboard there featuring the pairs and the 4s, and Stoke surprisingly in control of the pairs. Peter Hodson 18-8 over the Gary Lawson skip pair. 4s going the way of Elmwood Park 15-10. That's Lance Pascoe's 4 over Robbie Reed's Stoke 4. So Elmwood Park, as it currently stands, on course for the men's title at the National Interclub Sevens here at the Burnside Bowling Club in Christchurch. And I'll stick my head out the window and see how the women's final is developing. Of course, it started around half an hour after the men's because of the late finish of the semi-final we brought to you between Nelson and Carlton Cornwall. Very tight in the women's semi-final. In the singles, 12-11. Selena Smith over Joe Edwards in the singles. 6-4. Nelson leading Takapuna in the pairs. And the fours, that is, rather. And I can't quite see the pairs leaderboard scoreboard at this stage. When I do, I'll let you know the score on that one. And in fact, it is 12-5 after 8 of the 18 ends in the pairs. 12-5 to Takapuna. So Takapuna leading 2 of the 3, but the fours and the singles very tight.
So it really, you would think, big fight back here needed by Shannon McElroy for his Stoke team, and he duly does that by drawing a front toucher. After his first bowl was about a metre lower the jack, and Kelvin Scott went by a good couple of metres. McElroy, though, be holding 2. This bowl of Kelvin Scott's will be second shot.
And you saw Robbie Reid with a big scream after that bowl, and a few chuckles. I'm not quite sure what happened.
What was going on
next
there?
door? That's in the fours, and part of this final, of course, the men's final of the National Interclub Sevens. Robbie Reid, the skip of the Stoke 4, as you see on the scoreboard, is down by 5 shots. The pair, Stoke, though, up by 12 now, 20-8. They're running away with it. We might see the first point on the board of this final very shortly, going the way of Stoke and the pairs, which would be a bit of a surprise, not probably one they were counting on. And there have been 15 ends completed, so they might only play one more end.
Yeah, just about shake hands time after this end,
pairs.
if the Elmwood side don't get a good scoring number. And all of a sudden things could be turning around, because Shannon McElroy now, of course, has drawn 2 really, really good shots.
Oh, we've seen this story before, haven't we?
Well,
With bowls either side of the jack. We've seen Kelvin Scott thread the needle with only room for one bowl, trail the jack through.
I suppose the favourite that Shannon McElroy's got on this particular hit is that Kelvin Scott can't actually see the jack. He's really playing at a 1 bowl line target. But we all know what this guy's capable of, leading 18-12. And how far is it going to come back? It won't come back all the way. So McElroy can endeavour to score 3 shots here. I see Stoke have scored in that fours, Brendan. I see that they've got the mat. Shannon McElroy again taking a really close look at the head. And I haven't seen Shannon McElroy this sort of deliberate about the management of the head. And
Yeah, certainly more than I can remember.
well, he certainly won't want to give a target to Kelvin Scott. And McElroy also talking to somebody there on the bank, must be one of the Stoke people. Not sure about the shot he was going to play. You'd think he'd just, when you see the McElroy, the Gisborne McElroy contingent leading on the scoreboard down the far end. So Shannon McElroy holding 2, trailing 18-12. Holding 2 very good shots on the head on the forehand is Shannon McElroy now trying to add to the count. And how's the weight going to be? Is it going to get up far enough? I don't think so, but it's all in a straight line. I think it's just the 2.
Yeah, it's still Kelvin Scott with a bowl to play. Of course, McElroy did pick up a shot in the previous end when you were eating your banana cake, Kevin. So 18-13. Just to make sure the records are
Certainly
up to date.
Yes.
So Kelvin Scott will have the final say on this end, and is McElroy holding a couple. And it currently stands to be cutting the lead to 3.
Which, when you consider, a while ago we were sitting at earlier on 15-5, and then of course 18 as well. We got to 18 has Kelvin Scott.
Now we saw how difficult it was to get past 18 for Linda Ralph earlier. Is
Doesn't
that going to
like
be
it.
the number as well for Kelvin Scott? Hope not for his sake. And this will be 2 though to Shannon McElroy. So 18-15 it is now. Kelvin Scott still leading in the singles, but this is going to go down to the wire, you get the feeling. 18-15 now, Kelvin Scott over Shannon McElroy. Elmwood Park leading, and you can see our full scoreboard, which is great innovation. Well done to Tamara for putting that together, so bringing you up to date with the scores of all 3 and lets you know how the match as a whole stands. So Piers going Stokes way, 20-8, must be very near shake hands time there. And then 15-11, the 4s alongside Elmwood Park's favour.
And once again, of course, a big thank you to Tamara and Erin and the other sort of support crew from Bowls New Zealand and the helpers here at Burnside who do all the work and putting everything out there so as that we can bring this coverage to you. We just sit here, they do all that.
Shaking hands and the Piers. So the Piers are done with. Stoke, I've got the first point on the board in this men's final in the National Interclub Sevens. So a bit of an upset. That's the first defeat for Gary Lawson and Nathan Glasson at this tournament. Peter Hodgson and Graham Grocott, congratulations to them. They get Stoke on the board first. They win the Piers. Now it's all down to the singles that we're bringing you right here, and the 4s alongside us in this men's National Interclub Sevens final.
And all of a sudden, in my view, McElroy's got that consistency that we know the last 2 ends. He's got that consistency back into his draw play, and just the game turning around slightly now. You see the first bowl of Kelvin Scott short of the jack. Shannon McElroy has already drawn one just in behind the jack, and he follows his second bowl. It's going to be a metre behind. 15-11, I think the 4's score is that correct? 15-11, as you see up there on the big scoreboard. So still anybody's really.
Well, since McElroy was down 15-5, he's actually outscored Scott 10-3, and I think it changed just before he went down 15-5. It's probably about 13-5 when he started getting a lot more consistency with the draw, but Kelvin Scott played a couple of great shots to keep himself in the front, maybe win ends.
Well, he played that great shot to get the 3 shots coming down towards the car park end where they're playing now.
And that's the only end he scored on, isn't it? The last, what is it, 7 ends, 6 ends?
Well, McElroy's now putting the pressure on. He's another bowl. This is going to count. He's going to finish literally in line with the jack, is it? And definitely 2 shots. And, of course, the difficulty now for Kelvin Scott is that he's got short bowls cutting off his line, his vision line on the draw for Scott. So here he is now on the forehand. But we all know what a tenacious player Kelvin Scott is. Which is this bowl needs to get to the Shannon McElroy second shot bowl. And it's not going to have the weight again. Well, it's changing.
Yeah, it certainly is. Shannon McElroy with a bit of a spring in his step now.
And no doubt for Shannon McElroy, knowing that Peter Hodgson and Graham Grocott have put the first game into the in the win column, spurs on the singles player.
Oh, absolutely right. Knowing that he can clinch it here, he'll know that the 4s are down. He can get the job done if he can complete this comeback.
Well, this is going to count for sure. So this will be 3 shots at this stage to McElroy, with a bowl to come from Kelvin Scott, making his way back to the mat. And with certainly seen things dramatically. There you can see the 4s there. It's 15-11 to Elmwood Park after 11 of the 15 ends, as the skips are now changing over to complete what will be the 12th end. Kelvin Scott now trying to draw his way back into this game. He's on a good line here. If he can get underneath the bowl, is he going to get all the way to it? Ran into the front bowl, and I don't think that'll change anything, Brenton.
1's taken away, 2's taken away. Is it 3? Are we all going to be level at 18 apiece?
I think we're going to see the measure come out.
McElroy wanting to have another look at it. No, they're saying, Calvin, if you can do the honours please with the measure, that would be great. So 2 have already been taken away. So he's up to 17, McElroy. Now, is he up to 18?
2 it is.
Just 2. So 1 behind, and now he is potentially just 1 end away. Kelvin Scott 18, Shannon McElroy 17. In the first 221 singles contest, the pairs already in the bag for Stoke. Can McElroy complete this comeback from 15-5 down and to give Stoke another National Interclub Sevens title?
We've certainly seen in the last few ends, Brenton, the Shannon McElroy get that consistency in his draw play, which we know is one of the flagships of his whole repertoire. It was early on, and we spoke about it, that he was sort of struggling around. He was playing different weights and different shots, couldn't get consistency, and Kelvin Scott took full advantage of that, and that's why he was leading by 15 shots to 5 after 16 ends. But since then, believe it or not, after end 16, we've only seen Kelvin Scott score on 1 end, and that was the 3 that he scored, and it's been a scoring spree from Shannon McElroy. As we watch this first bowl of Scott's, needs to get inside the McElroy bowl to get shot, and is going to sit on the outside of it.
Yeah, 15-5 down he was, McElroy, and 18-12. Now just 1 behind. He hasn't led at any stage, has he, McElroy?
No, he has not.
The closest he got previously was 6-4 down. Kelvin Scott has been the dominant player for the majority of this, but Kevin's highlighted at recent ends, the last 7 or 8 ends, it has been really all McElroy, apart from that 1 stunning end from Scott, where he managed to turn it into a 3.
May well get the shot here, though. Needs to get inside the bowl, does, and push the Shannon McElroy bowl back 1. So definitely the shot to Kelvin Scott. So Shannon McElroy quickly into his work. Looks to be on that wide side, but he won't mind if it gets around behind him, being jack high, and it's going to be in behind the head. This head's going to be that of a drawing head. It's Kelvin Scott. And of course at this stage as well, both sides, both disciplines are looking now at that scoreboard, because with Stoke already got 1 in the bag, it's really it's a pretty important afternoon now, and this could well make 2 of it if Scott sits on the bowl, but he doesn't. He just falls in. Shannon McElroy having a good look. So is McElroy looking to change his hand to get a touch on the jack?
Hey?
Bit of a chat between the two players, McElroy and Scott.
Well, that have played one another many, many times at all sorts of events around the countryside, nationals, into centre,
Bowls 3-5.
Bowls 3-5, invitation events. And I see in the fours next door, I don't know what the numbers were, but I know on that last end it was Stoke that scored on the last end. They were 15-11 behind. And
I think it's 15-13 now.
15-13 is it? So things are really starting to tighten up. Elmwood, of course, leading in both of those disciplines, both the singles and that of the fours, but certainly can change. After Stoke have already won the pairs, and it's the shot McElroy's looking for. Trying to get a touch on the jack. It's what he's playing for. Trying to get to the jack.
Not far away.
Trying to get to the jack.
Just going to just slides by. Wasn't much in it, and
that was
now
game. That was the whole game if you got that touch.
But now, on the flip side, Calvin Scott can win here.
So Calvin Scott can play what I would call a weighted shot to what is his front bowl, which is in fact is the shot at this point in time, but he can make 4 of it. A yard of weight through that bowl.
And needs 3, of course.
And certainly,
Scott.
Certainly dislodge the Shannon McElroy bowl out of the head and leave.
So this could be the moment that this final is all locked up here. The pair's already going Stokes' way. Calvin Scott holding a couple. Chance to make it 3 and to win the singles and bring Elmwood Park level. Here it comes.
No, he's going on the prudent, the draw side. He's just going to be outside where he wanted to be, but you can see the options that were available to him. So, and there's the shot.
And it's going to have to be, maybe be a measure. Certainly looked like 2 for Calvin Scott. Or was he maybe only holding 1?
Just the one?
Oh, it's just the 1. Well, certainly the way it looked from our viewpoint, certainly looked like 2. But they can be misleading, but is it another shot closer for Calvin Scott? So 19-17, he now leads Shannon McElroy, and that explains the shot he played a bit more as well.
So Shannon McElroy looking for the shot, which could have literally put him all but that jack trail.
Oh, he was oh so close, wasn't he?
Well, it looked like he had it. I think he thought he had the jack as well. So here now is Calvin Scott with his first bowl on the backhand. Leading 19 shots to 17 in this race to 21.
The women's final taking place as well between Takapuna of North Harbour and Nelson. And it is Joe Edwards in the singles who is now leading 13-12. 13-12, Joe Edwards leading Selena Smith. So Nelson leading in that contest. The pairs is 14-6, I believe, to Takapuna over Nelson. And can't quite see the 4 scoreboard at the moment, but hopefully we'll be able to see it in a moment to bring it to you. So that's 1 apiece. The singles just in Nelson's favour. The pairs more convincingly, or much more convincingly, in Takapuna's favour.
Calvin Scott endeavouring to draw the shot here in the singles, and is going to. It's going to get past the front bowl of McElroy's. Sits right in front of the jack. That's a great bowl from Calvin Scott, his second bowl. And now Shannon McElroy looking about what shot do I best play. McElroy looks as though it's to the backhand. Definitely Kelvin Scott holding the shot. Shannon McElroy looks to beat under the line, and it will be.
A change in the women's singles. Selena Smith now leading Joe Edwards 14-13. Singles discipline, so that changes again. 14-6 it is in the pairs. Takapuna over Nelson. And still waiting for a few bodies to clear the scoreboard in front of the fours.
So Kelvin Scott going for the win here with his third bowl. And he's done just that, drawing him behind the jack, falls in. He's definitely got two shots. Take Scott to game at this point in time. Shannon McElroy, of course, still with two bowls left. And a very difficult head to get out of with those three short bowls. And this will certainly have to bring the best out of Shannon McElroy.
Yeah, the draw is the only option.
There's no other
with
option
those short
on.
bowls, of course.
So second shot, Brendan, might be the go here for Shannon McElroy to try and get another end, because at the moment, with a bowl each left, you see Shannon McElroy as well, then just taking a very keen interest in what was going on in that last part of the fours. Here's now McElroy 2 down, trailing 19-17, match down to Kelvin Scott of Elmwood Park. This is on a better line, this bowl of Shannon McElroy's. This is on a far better line and will get...
Oh, that's a great second
shot.
Great bowl from McElroy, what he needed. Of course, has one left after this, but needed to get something close, didn't he? With Scott holding game.
He needed to make sure he stayed alive in this match. Sort of under the pump. Definitely 2 down he was, especially in light of the pairs already going the way of Stoke with Peter Hodgson and Graham Grocott defeating Nathan Glasson and Gary Lawson. And I think you said, Brendan, that was the first defeat for Gary Lawson and Nathan Glasson in this Interclub finals. Kelvin Scott now, we're trying to draw for 2 and close the game out. I've got a few centimetres to draw it in. Here he is on the backhand. Certainly got it out on that safe wider side. How far will it come back? Won't come back far enough. I think Shannon McElroy will be pretty happy at this point that he was able to get second shot, thus making sure he's still alive in this race 2:21.
Finally been able to see the board in the fours and the women's final, and Nelson leading 9-4 after 10 of the 15 ends. So Takapuna leading 2 of the disciplines, the singles and the pairs, but Nelson up in the fours, and the singles between Selena Smith and Joe Edwards is just 1 shot in it. As is this another tight contest. What can he do here, McElroy? Kelvin Scott holding shot. Can he steal it here?
Trying hard is McElroy. If it falls in, it's shot. And I just heard him say there, fall in. Yeah, that's right.
Still one down, says Kelvin Scott. Doesn't matter. So 2017 now. He gets to match point. Does Kelvin Scott. His first to 21. Singles contest of the men's final. The pairs have already gone Stokes' way. Fours currently in Elmwood Park's favour. Although we've just seen another end completed then. There, we'll wait and see if the scoreboard changes. So as it currently stands, Elmwood Park will win the title, but they need to hold on to these slender advantages in the singles and fours. And then we see the score just update. So Elmwood Park now leading 16-13 in the fours. So wanting Calvin Scott to get that singles on the board for them first, and then to capitalise and convert this 4's lead.
So Shannon McElroy, he'll fight all the way down 2017. And how far this is going to break back towards the centre line. What's the weight like on the run through? Going to go by and leave it. That Calvin Scott bowl a metre behind will be the shot. Scott with his second bowl on the forehand. We endeavouring to draw right on top of the jack to put the pressure on Shannon McElroy.
Well, he wants to be the first on the jack, doesn't he?
Certainly does. Just going to go by and just runs by the jack. Pretty handy though. Shannon McElroy now fighting to stay alive, fighting to keep Stoke alive in this final after they've already, of course, won the pairs. So if McElroy could get through to this game, it would give Stoke the win. This looks a pretty good bowl here from Shannon McElroy. How far is it going to run on the... It's jack level and shot. The advantage here, of course, though, for Calvin Scott is any movement of the jack on that forehand side would certainly favour Calvin Scott. And this is on a good line, this bowl of Calvin Scott's. This is on a good line. It's,
unlucky.
How unlucky was that?
Yeah, he talked about movement on the jack on the forehand side. Unfortunately, it's just gone straight out rather than actually coming back on the angle towards his bowl. And a toucher has moved the jack right onto the McElroy bowl.
Well, if you look there, Brendan,
now
you'll see
the situation.
There's two touches there of Calvin Scott's. Those two bowls locked on top of one another. In fact, are both touches. So Shannon McElroy's got the advantage that he has got the deepest bowl on the rink. Does he try and draw another one? They're talking between one another. What shot would you play, Calvin? Because it could certainly... Yeah, this could be very interesting. Well, it is very interesting. Full stop. Shannon McElroy holding the shot. The jack locked on his bowl. Elmwood Park leading in the 4s. Stoke have already won the pairs. And Stoke leading 2017 here in the singles. But with Shannon McElroy holding the shot in this race to 21. McElroy deliberately trying to draw. How's this? He gets past this bowl. Look at this. Oh no, that's what he didn't want. He knows that. He didn't want that. That's two shots to McElroy, but it's opened the gate up. It's certainly opened the gate up for Calvin Scott now with his last bowl to get down to the shot bowl. Jack all in his favour. Stands behind the mat. Calvin Scott having a close look at it. Doesn't have to play with a lot of weight, just got to make sure that he reaches the head. Looking closely at his delivery. And he's on the backhand. On the backhand. Luck for Shannon McElroy, is it?
I think you favour McElroy there to hold shot. Unfortunately, it didn't go his way.
Got the side bowl contact, but didn't. Yeah, I think Calvin Scott sort of realises that we're still one down here.
And McElroy, of course, with the final bowl.
Certainly, I was surprised he played it with the amount of weight that he did, but the good thing with playing that weight, you know the bowl's going to hold up. It's not going to disappear under the head. And the jack just kept rolling around and moved down towards that bowler. Shannon McElroy's down behind the head. So we'll see what McElroy does with this, his last bowl. Trailing 2017. Just wait for Ray Hunt to hopefully move.
Well, by the sounds of that, he's just drawn shot.
And he has.
Yeah, so that looks like it'll be 2. So 2019 it is now.
2 it is. And McElroy requiring 2 to win, and for Stoke to win the National Interclub.
I thought for a moment, Kelvin thought that was it. He just shook hands and said, well done. Did he think it was already 2019?
Yes, it is 1920 for that. Someone I can hear through the sound mic there. On our reckoning, it is Kelvin Scott.
Was the scoreboard maybe not updated out there? Is that why there was confusion?
It may have been, but we'll check it.
Our scoreboard's definitely correct.
It is.
So the pairs already in the bag for Stoke. Singles coming down to the wire here, very much in the balance. On the 4s, advantage Elmwood Park. They are playing, what number end are they on? They are on the 14th end. So playing penultimate end here.
And 16-13 to Elmwood Park. Here's the first bowl, Shannon McElroy, sitting on 19. Going to come back to the centre line, about half a metre in behind. So Kelvin Scott, he'll follow that bowl of Shannon McElroy's. And of course, a win here for Stoke would give them the Interclub final. And then, of course, it comes down to Kelvin Scott to win. The favouritism swings straight back to Elmwood, who are leading in that 4s final. And Kelvin Scott, he's going to draw the shot here. Sits right alongside the jack. In fact, draws a toucher. Shannon McElroy just asking where the shot bowl is in relation to the jack. Ray Hunt, the marker, tells him, informs Shannon McElroy that it's a bowl jack high. McElroy will endeavour to reach that on the backhand, get a touch on the jack, or to hold the bowl through the head. So here's McElroy following his second bowl up. On the hunt is McElroy to get to that. The jack's under the line though. He knew that pretty quickly, he knew. So Kelvin Scott will now make sure he matches that Shannon McElroy bowl just in behind the head, sitting half a metre behind the jack on the backhand. Because we know the shot, or the only shot really, that Shannon McElroy can play. And the last thing that Kelvin Scott wishes to do is to fatten that target up. And that's where he wanted to be, in between that back bowl. Might see McElroy now though, Brendan, with more weight. He's played 2 bowls, of course. This is his 3rd. If he's going to play with a lot of weight, this is the bowl to play it with, not your last one. And he certainly is. He's playing with that real ditch-reaching weight to get to the bowls. He's close. He's close.
Oh, he's got the jack, but it's just ricocheted off the shot bowls and stayed there. Unbelievable.
Oh, that was, I thought the jack was clean in the centre and going literally right back to the ditch.
Slightly off centre, and it bounced off one, and then I think off his bowl again, and then off the other one.
Shake of the head, he knew. I thought he had that. It looked good all the way. Kelvin Scott now won't want to fatten that target up, of course. This will be the last bowl for Shannon McElroy, and rightly coming to the back is endeavouring to get deeper down on the rink to get that deepest bowl. Shannon McElroy making his way back now to the mat. This is the green where he won the World Singles. It's interesting. You might just see a delay of this last end of the fours, Brendan, to see what happens here. 16-13, Elmwood Park leading. McElroy trying to save the game. He's under the head. He's missed it.
It's one apiece now between Elmwood Park and Stoke in this final, because Calvin Scott has just beaten Shannon McElroy 21-19. It goes to the Elmwood Park player. Congratulations to him, and we're now playing the final end. By the looks of things, Elmwood Park just won the previous end, and they're playing the final end of the fours. Final end to decide it.
McElroy just showing some disappointment then, and to be fair to him, he fought back.
Well, that's the start, wasn't it?
And it was the start.
15-5 down. McElroy, too big a hole to get out of in the end. He was close, had his moments, almost had a chance to maybe hold match even a couple of ends ago when he was on 17.
Well, even with that third bowl that he played on that last end, Brennan looked as though he had the jack all the way to give them the jack in the ditch scenario, but not to be. It was amazing. The bowls just sort of, well, they just locked really. Jack moved, and 14 ends gone now, and you can see Lance Pascoe. There it is, 17, is it? No, just wait for Lance Pascoe to move. This is looking now good for Elmwood Park, even though Calvin Scott winning that singles match, and the advantage of which they have in going into this last end. But as we saw this morning in the women's semi-final match in Carlton and Nelson, Carlton of course needed 5 shots on that last end, and they duly got them to force an extra end.
17-13 confirmed on the scoreboard top left hand corner, so singles have been completed, gone Elmwood Park's way. Pairs finished first. They went Stokes' way, Peter Hodgson and Graham Grocott over Gary Lawson and Nathan Glasson. And now it's all down to the fours, and it is Lance Pascoe's four with Paul McKinnell, Liam Ethorn and Steve Titford, who are leading the Stoke quartet of Robbie Reed, Jimmy Pugh, Don Ambrose and Chris Aldred.
So Chris Aldred on the forehand, needing 4 shots to Stoke to force the extra end. You watch this bowl of Chris Aldred just ran into the front bowl of Steve Ditford's, and Lance Pascoe saying to Liam Ethorn, just draw it down here. Ethorn previously, of course, a West Coaster like Lance Pascoe, and Paul McKinnon, a former Southlander. So
Gary Lawson's got them in from all around the South Island.
Well, to be fair, one doesn't know whether Gary Lawson's Christchurch, Wellington or Auckland, actually. It's a bit of a, yeah,
of course, in the intercentre he represented Auckland, of course. But back here at his club that he's made famous in recent times, of course, and bowls 3-5 for the past 2 seasons, making the finals against both Stoke a couple of years ago and Stokes Valley. They beat Stokes Valley in the semi-finals here. Now they're trying to beat Stoke and get some kind of revenge for those 2 final defeats, perhaps.
So Shannon McElroy, in his only defeat in the Interclub finals, was in that last game.
As was Gary Lawson and Nathan Glasson's.
Their first loss, so it's what finals is all about. And of course the women's final, which has been played out here as well, that's anybody's as well at this stage. So big task here against Lance Pascoe to pick up a 4. As we see Don Ambrose, Stoke number 2, looks to be on a pretty good line. Let's see what Robbie Reid has to say. Just goes by. Absolutely perfect conditions here though. Just we're inside, but it's a very pleasant autumn day out there, you can see. So Robbie Reid surveying the head now. I'm trying to work out with Jimmy Pugh, how do we get 4 shots? Big ask. Did I hear? It's Pugh on the drive.
Yes.
He is. On the drive is Jimmy Pugh going for the kill. Went by quickly. That indicates there's no chance of 4.
Yeah, well, Robbie Reid can't see it. So trying to kill.
So Lance Pascoe just saying to Paul McKinnon, just draw the shot.
In a strong position here, Lance Pascoe's Elmwood Park 4 as they look to close out this men's National Interclub Sevens final.
So can Jimmy Pugh, the legend of Stoke.
Yeah, see the Stoke teammates watching on.
And he killed this to keep them alive for another end. Goes by again, went quick.
So it's down to Robbie Reid now to try and do that. The skips will now change over, Lance Pascoe and Robbie Reid.
So 4 balls to go.
Reid's just going to stay at the head to see what Pascoe does first, so he's got a clear picture of what the situation is before he bowls. But you'd think he'd try the same thing as Pugh.
Well, they've actually laid the platform, haven't they? They've said what we're going to play. So one would think. So Elmwood Park just 4 bowls away from National Interclub title. It'd be actually, if they were to win, it'd be worth going through the records to see how many clubs Gary Lawson's actually won a.
I
Because
think
I'm sure he won one with Carlton as well, actually, a long time ago.
I will go back through the record books because the records we have here, there was one National Interclub in 1997 and then the next one is until 2006, so if there was one, it's not in the record books.
Well,
so that
1997, he could have been playing anywhere.
Yeah, 97 was Johnsonville.
Oh, of course, yeah.
2006 was Manurewa. Shane Drabble was a part of that, who was playing again here this weekend. 2007, Takapuna. 2008, Palmerston North and Eastbourne won their first in 2009. Then Stoke won the first of their 3 in 2010. North East Valley 2011. Frankton Railway 2012. Stoke again 2013. Alexandra won in 2014. Stoke in 2015, and then Eastbourne, their hat-trick of titles. So this would be the first for Elmwood Park.
So here's Robbie Reid on the drive trying to kill. You can see from the body language that's not the result. Jack still stays in place. Lance Pascoe really just making sure, having a look on the head, there's no 4s there. Just so Steve Ditford giving lots of consultation, which I wouldn't worry about it, Steve. I'd leave it to, I think, Lance is obviously what he's going to try and do. Well, Robbie Reid to save the game for Stoke.
Robbie Reid raking his way down to the head. See what Pascoe does before he has the last bowl of this 15th and final end, and needing to kill it. And Pascoe here trying to get in the way of the kill. Putting the blocker in.
Well, not really a block where that's gone to, and he knows that as well.
That's what he was trying to do, though, I assume.
Yeah. So here's some applause between the Nelson v Takapuna game, which has been played on the other side of this green here at Burnside. And yet, once again, Burnside have presented very, very great presentation of their greens. They do a great job here, the greenkeeping staff. And have again, at this latter part of the season, produced the greens that enable all these players to show their wares at their best. And here's Reid now on the drive. Going for the kill.
Yeah, hasn't got it. That'll be it. And Elmwood Park are the men's National Interclub Sevens champions. They win the fours and the singles, and despite dropping the pairs, Elmwood Park have won this men's title for the first time in their history, taking down Stoke 2 matches to 1. Congratulations to them. The National Interclub Sevens title is staying in Canterbury, and it's staying here for the first time. I'll leave you in the hands of Kevin Hickland as I make my way greenside to talk to the winners.
So we saw a magnificent game of singles here. In fact, today we've seen 2 great games of singles. This morning's game, the one between Linda Ralph of Carlton Cornwall and Joe Edwards of Nelson. Of course, Joe Edwards running out the winner by 21 shots to 18, which saw, of course, Nelson make their way through to the final. And then we saw the game between Shannon McElroy of the Stoke Club and Kelvin Scott of Elmwood. And it was Kelvin Scott who jumped out of the gates to lead 6-0 and then got to a 15-5 lead and then 18-12. And then we saw a fight back from McElroy and getting right up within 20 shots, 20-19. And playing the last end, Shannon McElroy going for the drive to get the jack in the ditch, and in fact was unfortunate. Got the contact, got the right result, thinking the jack would go cleanly back into the ditch. Didn't do so, thus giving the win to Kelvin Scott. And earlier on, we'd seen the Stoke Pearce combination of Graham Grocott and Peter Hodgson defeat for the first time in this event the Nathan Glasson and Gary Lawson combination. But the fours combination of Stevie Ditford, Liam Ethorn, Paul McKinnell and Lance Pascoe, they were up against the Stoke combination of Chris Aldred, Don Ambrose, Jimmy Pugh and Robbie Reid. And it was the Pascoe side that were too strong on the day. And Lance Pascoe continuing the fine season that he's had. Remembering, of course, he won earlier on this year the Somerset National Peers in Auckland with Jamie Hill, and has had a successful and a fantastic season as Lance Pascoe. And, of course, as well of that, runner-up again in the National Somerset Fours in Alexandra. So a great season for Lance Pascoe, a great comeback by Elmwood Park. They are now the national champions, and I'll just wait now for Brendan Van Nistelrooy, who will have the Elmwood Park side with him. It's been fantastic bringing you this National Interclub Finals here from the Burnside Club in Christchurch as the 1920-21 season winds its way down. And a fantastic crowd here this afternoon watching these finals. And it's certainly been our pleasure to bring this coverage to you. Thank you to Tamara, Erin and the team from Bowls New Zealand who make sure that we can bring you this excellent production. And I'll just wait to hand you over now to Brendan Van Nistelrooy, who's got Gary Lawson from the Elmwood Park, the victorious National Interclub winners. I pass you over now to Brendan Van Nistelrooy.
We're now joined by Gary Lawson, the skipper of the men's pair from the successful Elmwood Park Club, who have won the National Interclub Sevens for the first time. Congratulations. The pairs didn't go your way, but a great team effort overall.
Oh, no, it was awesome. And Calvin Scott was sensational, wasn't he? You know, to beat McElroy, and McElroy came back. Shan was awesome towards the end. So, but he was very confident. At lunchtime, he said, "I think I can beat him." And the boys were a few behind in the fours. So, oh no, it was great. You know, like it's just one of the things we've been striving for a while now.
Yeah, the fours coming back from 7-0 down early on, had to dig deep to do that, and for Calvin Scott to have that performance and hold on against McElroy, must be very proud.
Well, I think the thing is that, you know, the old Bowls 3-5 that you've been involved in, we lost to the team that we played this morning, and we've lost to Stoke, so I suppose it's a little bit of payback time for us. But you know, it was just a great day and a good day for the club. You've obviously won this title before with Eastbourne, but to win it for a hometown club in Canterbury, does it mean a bit more? Oh no, it's great. You know, like won it with Hornby Domain as well, to be fair. But to win it for these guys, like we've been, you know, striving to win it. We wanted to put a good performance together, and it's just an awesome day. And you know, the guys are stoked, because I mean, I'm a great believer that, you know, it starts at your club. You know, if you can get your club going good, and you know then you move on to your centre and then New Zealand. So, you know, it's a really good day for the boys. Yeah, I was going to mention that this title still means a lot for the top players, blackjacks like yourself. It obviously disappeared in 2019, didn't play because of COVID last year, back again here 21. You still keen to play this type of tournament? Oh, this is right up there with the Intercentre. You know, you're playing with your mates, and you know, to win for your club is like huge. It's massive. Like a lot of good teams here, and a lot of teams want to win, and for us to walk away today is pretty awesome. Finally, what is next for Elmwood Park now? You've won the Bowls 3-5 National Interclub, you won the National Interclub Sevens here. Is it that Bowls 3-5 title, the one last thing you want for the club? Well, we've had a couple of disasters in the final, haven't we? So I suppose we need to have a good crack at that. And you know, the team that Scotty's going to play again, so and Mandy's going to be available. So, look, you know, we had a couple of disasters in the final, but we've been close. But it's been good fun. You are going to keep hold of Mandy Boyd then. I understand Stokes Valley are quite keen to have her and Lance Pascoe. Good luck. Good luck. Well, yeah, the challenge has been laid down to Stokes Valley. Thank you very much, Gary Lawson, the skip of the successful Elmwood Park side, who has won the Men's National Interclub for 2021, taking down a very strong Stoke side in the final, losing the pairs but winning the singles and the fours to win the championship. The women's final still ongoing between Nelson and Takapuna. Make sure you go to the Bowls New Zealand website later today for a full wrap of that final as well. But that ends our coverage here from the Burnside Bowling Club in Christchurch. A big thank you for all of you for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. It is the Elmwood Park Bowling Club who win the Men's National Interclub for 2021.